Now, as you know, every day in the start of the call, the first thing is uh, we do a recap on what we have learned last time in our last session. And then if you have any questions, we talk about that. Otherwise, we'll continue with the things planned for the day. Now, in our last class, we saw the Angular architecture. Like it consists of the TypeScript, HTML, and CSS classes, or the files. And all those files essentially required to develop any Angular component. And components are the important piece which fits together to create one module. So Angular architecture looks something like this. By default, you have a root module. I mean, when you generate a new project, when you do the ng new project name, you develop this. I mean, it generates the skeleton of your Angular project, which has everything, which has essentially a root or the app module and one component. And then when you do the ng serve, that component gets displayed on the browser. So these parts we have seen. Now you can create multiple modules. You can have multiple. We will see the difference. I mean, what essentially is a module? What are the components? And every module can have multiple components or multiple services. And then multiple module fits together to create one project or one application, one Angular application, one front end UI, web UI based application. Okay. So you will have a root module. Root module will consist of multiple modules, and then every modules can have the components and the services. Now the components consist of the TypeScript, HTML, and the CSS. And then this TypeScript, you can say that talks to a service to get the data, and service can be the MVC, what we were talking about, the model view controller based or a REST service, which gives you the data to be displayed on the web page. So this is the typical architecture of an Angular project. Now, we also saw that whenever we will be talking about Angular, there will be some words you will be hearing very frequently, like data binding. So we saw what is data binding, components, directives, templates, routing, modules, service. So we saw that what is modules. By default, Angular, when you generate an Angular project, it creates a root component, root module, and then root module has one default component, and you can create multiple modules, you can create multiple components, you can create multiple services to for your custom requirement, whatever requirement for which you are developing your code. Okay, so we saw modules, components, and now then the question comes, what are the directives? So we'll see that what are directives, especially to give you a context, like what is directive is if you remember, have you done JSP servlet? I mean Java based servlet or JSP. Have you heard it? The Java server pages.
No, sir.
No. So okay. So let's not draw any analogy. Directives are like the logical constraint on your HTML page or on your TypeScript or JavaScript code, wherein, let's say, what are logical constraints from programming? You will remember the if else, the switch condition, the for loop. So these are logical constraints. So what happens if you click on this button, then this will happen. Otherwise, this will be the default behavior of the button. So if there is any button on your page, when you click on it, something will happen. If you don't click on it, or if you do a right click, then that will happen. So all these if else condition, for loop, switch are essentially the directives. We'll see the directives in details. What are the structure directive or component directives in detail, but for you to remember, you can remember it through the if else, ng for, ng if, ng switch. They are the directives. Okay. So theoretically, in theory, we have covered. We also saw this, that when you do a ng generate component and you give the name of that component, it generates 4 or 5 files, which has one HTML, one TypeScript, one CSS for sure, and this will be integrated with the app mod. I mean, their entry will be made in the app module, because app module is the core module of the Angular framework. So this is how you generate a component. We'll see this in the hands-on. And in terms of the definition, I think you know what are the components now, because components you can call them as a dynamic templates. Why we can call that as a dynamic template? Because let's say if you have developed a component, you can give it to me and I can use it. There are so many components readily available on the node, which you can just use it. You don't have to develop it again. So it's a reusable dynamic templates, and we give them a name as a component. Okay, let's now connect to. We'll talk about that. We'll see this data binding. How data binding happens. And we saw what are the directives, what are the structural directives like ngif, ng-for, ng-switch are the directives. Then how the template and the component, they interact with each other. The root component has okay. So when you see this Angular bracket,
sir, will you give this slide on mail?
Give this slide on
Mail.
Yes, I have sent you this slide, Neha.
Angular directives also included in that.
It should be there, but I'll send it again.
Okay, fine.
Yeah.
How many pages slide is this?
Now it has 14-15 slides. There are a few blanks.
Okay.
Okay. Anyways, you don't need to keep reminding me sending the document. That is obvious. I will send it to you. Don't worry about that. Let's connect to the machine where we'll do the hands-on. So I'm connecting to the remote machine. Okay, perfect. So now if there's anything running, let's close it. Let's close everything. We have this open. So maybe we can use this project itself, or if you want, we can generate a new one for today. So what we need to do first is we need to come to the folder where we want to create our project. Then we can open the command prompt or PowerShell or whatever shell you have in the Mac or Linux. Now in this, what's the first command? First command is ng-new and the project name, right? So let's say today is the, let's give it a name like dayTwo. And then we need to define, we need to give it a styles. So for the style, we can pick the SCSS and we can do the enter. This is what this is doing. This is creating a new project. which we will use today.